What if I told you that eating more of the right foods, not less, is the key to feeling and looking your best? Hi! Hi! Welcome! Thank you so much for coming back. For those that see me for the first time, hello. I hope you are all doing amazingly well. So, this is the third episode of our transformation series. For those that don't recall or wish to see it again, we did the first episode, which is all about action, basically trying to get you to actually get your butt off of the chair and get you to go ahead and do the things. The previous episode, our second episode, was all about the physical side of the transformation. So anything physical when it came to your physical health or any changes that you wanted to do. Today, we are talking about the nutritional transformation. Not only are we going to talk about the importance of food, what is a diet and what isn't, changes that can do a drastic difference in your day-to-day life, and how to make it sustainable. For me, this is a very important topic as a nutrition student because this is my beach. I know how to talk to you and I know everything about it to be able to convey the information that I've learned to you. So, how about we jump right into it? First, let's talk about the all or nothing mindset and anything that has to do with diets. First of all, the word diet itself unfortunately has a very negative connotation. We all associate the word diet with restrictive eating and all kinds of things that come with it. The reality here is that when you study nutrition, diet is just simply the term of a particular way of eating. What that means for me is if you tell me that you have a particular diet is the way that you particularly eat. So for example, if we talk about the vegan diet, you eat a vegan style of food. Meanwhile, if you turn to me and you say that you eat everything, I know that you have a type of diet that you eat everything. Diet is just simply the term. Unfortunately, the nutrition industry and unfortunately the fitness industry along with it has created the term diet or coined it to be said to actually mean something completely different. So let's start with the mindset situation of it, the all or nothing. I'm going to cut everything and I'm going to eat lettuce. No, that doesn't work. And it doesn't work for multiple reasons. It doesn't work not only because it's not even sustainable, you're going to get tired of it, and it's not going to help you long term. Not only for the side of the mindset associated with it, because you're not going to feel like doing it for long, but also there's the situation of nutritionally is just not going to be balanced. And you're going to be left with a lot of deficiencies along the way if you don't have the proper following. Also, restrictive diets fail, and they fail a lot. There's just the cycle of you start off fine and then you start binge eating and then you fail and then you start again, and it's just a huge fucking loop. Okay? It's just a loop. And what ends up happening along the way is that what we see very often, especially with social media, is that you go from eating everything that you want around Christmas time. Around January, you do your decision. Then it comes and you start to lose weight because you get into a restrictive diet. And you do that all the way till summertime because that's the time where you feel like you actually want to be at your skinniest per se, if that is your goal. And then you don't do anything else, and then you start eating all the way up again to December again. So it's just a constant 6 to 7 month loop of you eating a lot, eating too little. And every single time you will notice that you're not going to lose as much weight as you used to. And that's perfectly normal because your body is just getting tired of the same old thing. Another thing that to me is very important is making you realize that food is not the devil. Food is nutrition. Food is designed to fuel your body and allow you to do everything that you want to do, from jumping to running to playing to working to doing whatever you wish. And unfortunately, a lot of people have framed certain foods as no foods or bad foods or bad for you foods. What matters in the end is balance. As long as everything is balanced, you're able to consume whatever you enjoy as long as it's within your abilities. And also, is not about perfection. With all due respect to all the beautiful influences out there, and me included, it's not realistic for you to show us a day in a life of eating with all these beautiful salads and smoothie bowls and grain bowls and all these things. Let's be honest, you pre-planned that day to stay at home. You pre-planned those meals probably weeks before that. You pre-planned all of it to shot that video that day. You planned your day all around it. Probably a meal that would take you 15 minutes to do took you 1 hour just because you need to get all the right. And unfortunately, that is a very huge misconception that tends to not get across to the people following you. And yes, right now I'm actually talking to the influencers. All respect to you. I know the grind, but please make it realistic. A lot of people do show their realistic days where sometimes they wake up and all they consume is a cup of coffee, where they go out to the gym for just 15 minutes because they don't have an hour like they normally do. Maybe they have kids, maybe they have jobs, maybe not only do they have jobs, but their jobs are stressful. And besides that, life is different every single day. If you are someone that you do pride yourself in trying to get the most out of your nutrition and most out of your food, I'm sure you're going to be the person sitting on the other side thinking, okay, but I meal prep, I do everything that I can, I buy organic. Fair enough, and you're doing amazingly. And if it works for you, please keep going. I am not the one to judge. But for goodness sake, do not follow an influencer's diet just because it looks fine or works for them. What works for them might not work for you. So, to make it nice and easy, we are going to talk about the nutrition basics. Anything that you need to know to jumpstart your nutrition journey. Shall we? First, we need to understand what is macronutrients. You're going to listen that word a lot. And if I can, I'm going to add some text in here to help you out along with some photos. Those that are watching on video, you'll be able to see it. Those that are only listening to me, don't worry, I'll explain all of it. So, you're going to hear the macronutrients. So, macronutrients and micronutrients, those are two separate things, but they work together. Macronutrients are going to be what most people already know as protein, fats, and carbs, while micronutrients has to do with vitamins and minerals. When it comes to macronutrients, those are the things that you can most control when it comes to your nutrition because they're the most easily seen. Like you can, 9 times out of 10, you can see what it is. Normally, proteins are designed to fuel your body and give you amino acids. Those amino acids are compounds that will help your body and your cells to be able to continue your machine running because pretty much anything on your body needs amino acids to work. When it comes to your carbohydrates, they're going to get broken into sugars. Those sugars will turn into glucose, which will give you energy to be able to continue going. And then fats are going to give you all kinds of compounds from cholesterols to steroids that naturally are needed in your body, along with certain vitamins and other compounds that will help you break into your body to also give you fuel. Because fats are also a form of fuel. They're actually a better form of fuel in a way when we look at the caloric usage of them. But here's the catch. They are normally only used when the sugar contained in the carbohydrates and also stored in your body deplete, which is why we also hear the term keto diet, or even ketosis. It's basically when your body has fully run out of sugars and they start to use fat to burn to give you energy. When it comes to protein specifically, it's designed to support things like your muscles. I'm actually looking down to help me out here. So your muscles, your energy, and your satiety. Fats are good for your hormones, your skin health, and your brain function. And of course, carbs. are going to be not the enemy. They're going to help you out over here with the energy. To go a little deeper into it, you can also focus on micronutrients, so your minerals and your vitamins. Normally, one good way of getting that is getting as much of a balanced plate as possible. Where I live, we actually follow the Mediterranean standard of the diet, also considered one of the best diets when it comes to cardiovascular health, and also one of the most balanced. One of the good things about that particular diet is that it puts an emphasis on the consumption of fish, leaner meats, a good consumption when it comes to grains and legumes, vegetables and fruits, and that is not a bad thing to follow. The personal advice for people is indeed to consume around 2 to 5 pieces of fruit a day, have around 3 to 5 servings of vegetables in the plate, make sure to consume a good amount of protein. You can easily calculate it with a formula. You can find multiple things online on how to calculate, but on average around 70 to 100 grams of protein is more than enough for the average person. If you are a male or you're training, you could go up to maybe 120 or 130. When it comes to carbs, it depends on your diet. Some people like to do medium carb, higher carb, or lower carb. What that means is that the percentage of the amount of carbs that you consume are either higher or lower. On my experience, medium is more than enough, low could be too low, and high could be too high. To be honest, all you need is just to balance it out. If you do not wish to count anything and you just want to improve the amount of nutrients that you consume, one of the best ways is actually the plate method. What you do is that you pick up your plate, you divide it in half, and then one of those halves you divide it in half again. The full half, you're going to put vegetables. As many as you like, whatever ones you like, cooked whatever way you prefer the most. The other half divided in two. And one part you put protein, the other part you put carbs. Now you may be asking, what do I do with the oils? Easy. You could put something like a knot of butter while you cook, an avocado slice, some nuts, seeds, or even a little thing of olive oil on your plate. That will be more than enough fats, besides the already fats contained in whatever meals you cooked, also depending on the cooking method. Another huge important thing when it comes to nutrition specifically is also hydration. I cannot tell you enough times how much people do not drink their water. My advice? Around 1 liter to 3 liters of water every single day. If you want a specific number, 2 liters is definitely enough. Most people will not have the cue or the will to want to drink, especially in the colder times where you don't really feel that stronger thirst. But the funny thing is that you don't need to feel thirsty to actually need to get hydrated. A trick that I tell people is break it down into glasses of 250 milliliters. 8 glasses are the total. Spread it throughout the day. One really good trick is making sure that you drink 1 to 2 glasses right away in the morning, 1 to 2 before bed, and that way you're already knocked out 4. Then at each meal, you add another glass. That should be more than enough for you to be able to consume enough water to keep you nice and hydrated. Also, a really good pointer is looking at your pee, because the pee will tell you how much you're actually drinking. The lighter the pee, the more hydrated you are. The darker the pee, the least hydrated you are. You want to go for like a very pale yellow. Now that we've gone through the basics of what is, macronutrients and nutrition and everything, another important thing is realizing that food is fuel. Understanding that you should add to the plate, not remove. I understand that people have different types of diets, including diets for many reasons, whether it be health reasons, religious reasons, and many more. The key here is that even within those diets, trying to be as overall and as balanced as possible. Even if you are vegan, You shouldn't just stick with the same 3 to 4 fruits that you already know. Experiment, try different fruits, different vegetables, different ways of cooking, different cuisines even could inspire you to create more in the kitchen and being able to actually expand your palate and taste new adventures. I can even give you my personal perspective on the situation. I'm grown I I come from a Mediterranean based cuisine country. I am born and raised in Portugal. And the reality here is that our very cuisine is very particular. I grew up with the traditional cuisine, and as I grew older, I started to experiment others. Due to some health reasons, I went from being an omnivore to being all the way to vegan. Stayed vegan for quite a while, reduced to vegetarian, stayed like that for a while, and then went back to being omnivore. Throughout this whole time, I never cut off things that weren't meant to be cut off. When it came to fruits, I consumed it heavily and I made sure to consume a variety of fruits and in season. Same thing with vegetables. And of course, I made sure to get enough protein, enough fiber as well, as that will help not only with your gut, but also with the processes in the body. For those that are vegetarian and vegan, especially if you don't consume any sort of animal-based protein, you have a hard time to be able to consume enough protein. One thing that you need to be aware is that while animal protein gets consumed at 100%, vegetable-based protein only around 60 to 80% gets consumed. Which means that if in the label it says 100 grams of protein, you're most likely to consume, or in this case absorb, around 60 to 80% of it. Of course, I'm exaggerating. Most people will not consume 100 grams right away, but it's an easier way to get you to visualize the situation. One of the ways that you are able to increase not only the absorption, but also to get a more complete protein is matching the vegetable proteins along with whole grains. A really great trick that has been used for a very long time is for example, beans and rice. Believe it or not, but when we look at the amino acids contained in that meal, it actually has a complete profile. That is because beans will bring out some amino acids, while the whole grain rice is going to bring in some others, creating a full protein. If you take that into consideration while you're planning your meals, to always combine some sort of whole grain with some sort of bean, legume, or other forms of protein is going to give you the best bang for your buck. Not only is it going to be cheaper, but you're also going to get more out of your nutrition. Also, timing. A lot of people have seen the rise and go and rise again of the time restricted feedings, intermediate fastings, long fastings, and so many others. To be honest, it all depends of what you're looking for. If you're a busy bee constantly moving throughout the day, maybe time restricted feeding or even fasting will not work for you. If you're someone that maybe works from home or you have a less busy life, that could probably work for you. I can tell you that I have experimented both work on me, but right now I am doing 6 to 8 meals a day on smaller portions, and that works better for me. Of course, you could do a time restricted feeding or even a controlled feeding. Controlled feeding is a term that we use when we actually do timed. So you eat at a particular time each and every time. So that way your body actually has the time to get hungry again, and it gets used to getting food at that exact time every single time. But that also requires to have control also about your sleeping. And believe it or not, as I talked in the previous episode, sleeping is also a huge key to the situation. The more sleepy you are, the hungrier you can get, the more likely you are to binge eating, and then the cycle continues. If you wish to control the timing of your feeding, or you wish to do intermediate fasting, my advice is start with a longer period. Normally a 12-hour fast tends to be one good way to start. On average, that will mean that you will eat 2 hours after you wake up, and you'll stop eating 2 hours before you go to bed, which will include the 8 hours of sleep, which is the best time to actually fast. Once you get used to that, you could increase to something like 16 hours or 14 hours or even 18 hours. My advice is start it slow and make sure that your body can actually handle it. Also, if you wish, you could do it along with a dietitian or a nutritionist to be able to get the best balance and also how to eat, because there's a particular way on how to introduce foods when you first eat in the morning or in the afternoon, depending of the time frame that you're eating. If also in this journey you are going through the workout, like we talked in the previous episode, make sure that you fuel yourself before and after your workout. On average, before your workout, you need to go for simpler sugars, something that your body can easily process and get the sugars out to be able to fuel your workout to give you more energy. One really great trick is something like eating a banana or some other fruits. That will get you really quick sugars that are easy to digest and get you all that energy. And preferably right after your workout, you should go ahead and consume a higher amount of protein, like a protein bar or something else, to actually help not only heal the muscles that just went through the workout, but also help in muscle growth. So, this all may seem very confusing, and that's perfectly normal. So let's start with some realistic ways on how to improve your nutrition. One of those ways, if you're someone that doesn't eat veggies very often, is actually to introduce one from time to time. An experiment. Let's pick up broccoli, for example. Broccoli is a very good vegetable, as not only is a green-based vegetable, which gives a lot of nutrients, but also is very versatile in the way that you can cook it. You could fry it, grill it, air fry it, you could boil it, you could blanch it, you could do all kinds of things to it. My advice, experiment different ways of cooking the vegetables until you find one that you enjoy. Another thing that you can do is meal prep. Prepping and planning out your meals can actually improve the amount of nutrition that you can get. You can get a lot more bang for your buck when you plan everything. You don't need to complicate things and make it all pretty. You could do something like pre-cooking your rice, pre-cooking your pasta, meal prepping a big salad, and leaving in large containers that you can just grab and go. Another thing that you can do is leaving things to marinate. Whether it's tofu, meats, fish, whatever it is, you can create marinades, put them in separate bags in perfectly individual doses, and then put it in the freezer. All you gotta do after that is either unfrost it inside of the bag and then cook it, or go straight into a pan. That will allow you to not only cut down the time that it takes to meal prep, but also allow you to get really easily accessible protein. Another thing, and that is one of the most complicated, is learning your hunger cues. Understanding what it feels to actually feel hungry and if it makes sense for you to eat. Another thing that I really want to come across is do not cut yourself from consuming something if you're craving it. Make sure, first of all, that it's a true craving, and if you are craving it, just consume smaller. Let me give you guys an example. I'm sure every single woman has gone through the process where they get their period and they get the sensational need of getting chocolate. We all have gone through that. My advice, instead of you pushing it all the way down and then just binge eating on a huge tablet of chocolate, it's best for you to just simply go into your cabinet, get one of those small chocolates, consume it, and be done with it. 9 times out of 10, you will not want to eat anything else, and you'll continue on with your day. That allows you to get less, but in a way, actually feel more, because that way you're listening to your body and being intuitive about it. That allows you to get a balance on where you still are sticking along with your diet and your way of eating and your nutritional goals, but you're not binge eating at night. Let me also make sure to make you understand that there's a difference in between controlled binge eating, which is you realizing that you really want to eat something, you push it down, and then you just eat at night, versus a binging disorder. Binging disorder has to do with a psychological issue, and if you feel like you're actually going through that, please seek medical attention. There are many experts out there to help you not only with binge eating, but many other disorders associated with food. And if you are dealing with that, please seek medical advice. That leads me into food guilt. And this one, I'm even sitting a little straighter because I'm going to be a little honest right now. Not only as a student, but also as a content creator, I spent a long time on social media. And unfortunately, we have seen all kinds of people pop up and give their opinion when it comes to food. From restrictive diets to no foods and so many more. I will not call out names because we all know who they are, unfortunately, by now. Here's one thing that I know, and it scares me. You are not a tool for those people to manipulate. You are not someone that should just simply accept what they say as the end all be all. Because if you actually pay attention and you scroll back enough, a food that they're saying that is a no today was a yes food 3 months ago. And they backtrack a lot. They use so many studies that they only use the head, the head part of it. They don't tell you enough information about it. And if you actually go and read the study, not only did they found it inconclusive, they didn't found enough evidence, or they literally tell that it needs to be further studied. And that is the reality with most studies. If you spend enough time in the medical field or talking to people that read studies either for fun or because they have to, you will come to find that a lot of studies will literally say at the end that more needs to be done. Of course, it's good to get studies and be able to bring information to people, but also a lot of them just don't tell you enough. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there utilizing that ploy and basically finding a study that proves their point and using it as a weapon. The reality here is that everything is subjective and everything is evolving. And information that we find today, maybe in a couple of months, is completely negated. Or even more, maybe something that we had the presumption of becomes into a reality a couple months later. A really big thing that I hear all the time is about blood sugar associated with certain foods. Believe it or not, but there's multiple studies that prove that people's microbiome can actually react differently to the same exact food. You could present them with a high sugar food and a low sugar food, and people can have completely opposite reactions. And not only is there one study, there's multiple studies that are not only trying to study this, but trying to comprehend why that happens. People can react differently. That's why probably if you have parents or grandparents that have diabetes, they have told you that sometimes a potato could rise their blood sugars more than a piece of cake. Even though in technicality, one has more sugar than the other. The only difference here is that their body metabolizes it differently. And that comes to the reality that people metabolize things differently. And we're not all walking around with a measurement in our arm trying to see which one spike our blood sugar the most. And the reality here is that not everyone's just going to eat one singular thing and try to test it out. And same thing with no foods. Why is a food being a no? 9 times out of 10 is because of seed oils, fats, sugars, and so many more. And I will agree that added sugars and added fats and all kinds of other compounds are not the best for you, but they're not horrible for you either. The reality here is that if you consume rice, which is a form of carbs, it contains all kinds of compounds that will get broken down into glucose. And glucose is sugar. The same sugar that will make your body create energy, which will allow you to keep going with your life. And seed oils, I would like to understand the story behind it, but so far no tests have come out conclusive about any sort of issues associated. And any that have come out with some sort of evidence, it was never strong enough for them to decide anything. Pretty much every single one of those studies have just simply said that more studies need to be done. What we do know is that our body needs protein, that stems from not only animal-based protein, but vegetable-based protein, that we should get a diet full and balanced of everything and as much as possible, and everything should be taken in moderation. So if you're craving a chocolate or eating something in particular, it's best for you to eat a small portion than to just let it take over your life. And I know that sometimes this is hard to hear because we rather have a planned out situation up in front of us and people telling us put this much and that much and that much. But the reality here is that I cannot give you an exact advice because what works for me may not work for you. It may not work for the person besides you. What I can do is instruct you on consuming enough protein, consuming enough carbs to give you energy, making sure to consume fiber, not only for your gut, but also for the vitamins and minerals present in it, making sure that you eat fruits and vegetables from the time that they're growing and being picked to optimize their freshness and optimize the nutrients present in them, and making sure that you eat enough and not restrict your diet too much. At the end of the day, we need to fuel ourselves and we need to be able to do the things that we love. If you want to be with your family and jump and run and work out and do your job, you need to be able to feel good besides looking in the mirror and looking good. Because at the end of the day, if you do focus on having the best nutrition possible and having as balanced as possible, you're going to have a really great time regardless. And if you do choose to go for a restrictive format, whether it be within the foods being cut, or even time being cut, or calories being cut, just make sure it's still as balanced as possible. And also be creative. Have fun with your nutrition. Experiment with new flavors, new foods, new spices, making sure to reduce on salt, reducing on sugar. And when I mean sugar, I mean added sugar, because sugar in fruits, perfectly fine. And make sure that you have fun. At the end of the day, what matters is you having fun, because food is fuel. Food is important to be able to keep you going. It's what binds cultures together, is what brings families together, is what drives you, gives you memories. When was the last time that you ate something that you know for a fact that your mother or your father or your grandfather or someone else did that just brought you so many memories? A very big thing is also people have been eating in a rush. We eat so fast we can't even take in the flavors. One really good thing that the Japanese do is they slow down the way that they eat. They really appreciate it. And they have the rule of eating until 80%, which means that you're eating until you're satisfied, not until you're full and your stomach is twice its size. At the end of the day, that doesn't really particularly mean that they're eating better than everyone else, but it does mean that they actually take into consideration the act of eating. One really big thing is also removing screens from in front of you. Not having your phone, a computer, or TV while you're eating. Believe it or not, but there have been studies that shown that people that eat with a screen in front, they're more likely to gain weight because they're eating faster. Eating faster can also lead for you to consume more air, which also can lead to a worse digestion because there's air trapped within your bowel. That also can happen with sugary drinks and, gas-based drinks or sodas. And also can happen with the act of eating. I've seen people being able to eat a full plate of food in 5 minutes. But if they were to slow down and take longer, they might not eat the whole plate because their body would give the response of the food cue and the satiety clue much, much more effectively. So these series are based to advise you, to be able to give you a little bit of a support in your goals. They're not meant to give you any specific details because that's not my goal with these series. It's meant to talk about the broader topic and get you to think about for yourself. It gives you some guides and some pointers to help you out. but is mainly for you to think about what is best for you and do your own investigation and also according to your own preferences. So, my next 2 episodes, and I can tell you right now, they're going to be about the mental and the emotional sides of things. Because I know that that's a very big hurdle, not only for the rest of the transformation, if you actually want to do a 360 option, but also if you actually want to change those parts, which is why I separated them into different portions. So, I hope to see you next episode, and I hope that whatever I brought up today could inspire you to change and inspire you to improve what you feel like you need to improve. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.